The atmosphere on the set of The View buzzed with anticipation as Prince Harry took his seat across from the show's co-hosts. Whoopi Goldberg, seated in her usual position, greeted him with a polite nod, but her eyes revealed a guarded intensity. The audience applauded, some clearly surprised to see the Duke of Sussex on daytime American television. Harry adjusted his suit, smiling cautiously, aware that this was not going to be an easy interview. He had prepared himself for questions about the monarchy, Meghan, and the controversies swirling around them. Still, he couldn't have anticipated the sheer bluntness that Whoopi would bring. Right from the beginning, Whoopi's tone set the mood. There would be no softball questions today. She leaned in with narrowed eyes and asked, "Harry, do you ever regret leaving your family behind?" The audience hushed. Harry took a deep breath, trying to maintain composure. "I didn't leave my family," he began. "I left an institution. That didn't protect us." Whoopi didn't flinch. "But wasn't it your choice? You had every resource imaginable. You were born into privilege. People out there are struggling to feed their families. What made your problems so unique that you had to abandon your duties?" Harry's eyes flickered. He wasn't new to tough interviews, but this line of questioning was aggressive, even by tabloid standards. "It wasn't about privilege," Harry responded. "It was about protecting my wife and children from relentless attacks. Mental health doesn't discriminate based on wealth." Sonny Hostin nodded sympathetically, but Whoopi remained unmoved. "Still, some argue that you monetized your trauma. Netflix deals, books, public appearances. It seems like you didn't step away quietly, capitalized on the very system you say you were escaping." Harry's smile turned tight. "Speaking out isn't exploitation," he said firmly. "It's advocacy," but Whoopi didn't let up. Or is it self-promotion? The tension on set was growing palpable. Joy Behar attempted to pivot, interjecting with a question about Harry's upcoming charity initiative. But Whoopi was relentless. She returned to the main thread of their confrontation. "Let's talk about Meghan's Oprah interview," she said. "You claimed there were concerns about your child's skin color. Do you stand by that allegation today?" Harry's jaw tightened. "We told our truth," he said. "Those were our experiences, and we won't back away from them." Whoopi crossed her arms. Truth or perception? Because truth implies objectivity. What if your perception hurt people unnecessarily? The audience shifted in their seats. Some gasped audibly. Prince Harry glanced off camera, clearly trying to remain calm. Sometimes uncomfortable truths have to be said. He replied. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. "And yet you're silent when it comes to criticism of your own actions. Why not take accountability for the damage you've done to your family's reputation?" Hush. That jab hit hard and the discomfort in the room deepened. Prince Harry's expression hardened. "I have taken accountability," he said slowly. "But accountability is a two-way street. I've reached out privately. I've tried to reconcile, but some people don't want that." Whoopi didn't blink. "And yet, here you are, airing grievances publicly again. Doesn't that defeat the purpose of reconciliation?" Harry leaned forward, his voice steady but cold. "No, it highlights the systemic issues that still exist. Issues that need to be addressed if we're ever going to move forward." Whoopi looked unimpressed. "You say systemic issues, but isn't it convenient that they only became a problem when they affected you personally?" That remark hit like a punch. Harry's eyes narrowed. "I've been aware of these problems for years. I've used my platform to bring attention to them. That's not convenience. That's conviction." Whoopi tilted her head. "Or is it selective outrage?" The crowd murmured. Harry glanced around, clearly growing frustrated by the unrelenting pressure. The room grew increasingly uncomfortable. As Whoopi refused to relent. "You talk about mental health and advocacy," she continued. "But what about the mental health of those you've publicly criticized? Have you considered the toll your words might have taken on your father or brother?" Harry's voice dropped in volume, but not intensity. "You think I haven't? I've thought about it every day. But silence was harming us more. Speaking out was survival." Whoopi leaned back in her chair. "Survival from what? You lived in a castle. You had security, staff, anything you wanted." Harry's nostrils flared. "You don't understand what it's like to be hunted by the press. To fear for your family's safety every time you step outside. Sunny tried to mediate. "There's truth in both perspectives," she said gently, but Whoopi ignored her. "Sounds like drama dressed up as activism," she said, triggering a smattering of uncomfortable laughter from the crowd. Harry visibly tensed, the energy on set now electrically hostile. The tension reached a boiling point as Whoopi turned to the audience. "Do you think people came here to hear a royal complain?" she asked. A few awkward chuckles echoed, but mostly silence met her question. Prince Harry stood his ground. "This isn't about complaining. It's about healing, growth, and accountability. If sharing my journey helps others feel less alone, then I'm proud of that." Whoopi gave him a cold smile. "Healing shouldn't come at the expense of others, especially those who never asked to be dragged into your narrative." Harry blinked, clearly absorbing the weight of her comment. "My family dragged us into the spotlight long before we spoke," he said. "I'm just reclaiming my voice." Whoopi turned back sharply. "We're rewriting history." Joy and Sunny exchanged glances. Even Sarah N looked visibly uneasy. The moment was spiraling. Prince Harry's composure cracked slightly as he muttered, "I don't have to sit here and be insulted." Whoopi's eyes narrowed. "You're a guest here. You were invited. No one forced you to come." Harry stood up slightly in his seat. "And I expected a conversation, not an interrogation." The studio fell eerily silent. Producers behind the scenes began exchanging nervous glances. Sarah leaned forward, whispering something to Sunny, who nodded. Whoopi stayed unmoved. "If you can't handle questions, maybe this wasn't the right platform for you." Harry's jaw clenched. Questions are one thing. Accusations and judgment are another. Whoopi stood now, matching his energy. "We ask hard questions here, always have. If you came looking for sympathy, you came to the wrong place." The crowd gasped audibly. It was no longer an interview, it was a showdown. And Harry, visibly flushed with frustration, took a deep breath and looked toward the exit as if weighing whether to leave mid-show. The tension was no longer subtle. It was consuming. Joy tried again to de-escalate. "Maybe we can reset. Harry, would you be open to talking about your work with veterans?" But Whoopi wasn't letting go. "No, Joy, if he wants to leave, let him. We're not here to beg for sound bites." The sharpness in her voice sliced through the air. Harry turned to Whoopi. "You invited me on this show to tear me down. You don't care about dialogue." Whoopi raised her eyebrows. "I care about truth. I don't cater to sanitized narratives." The studio audience, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented, remained frozen in suspense. Harry grabbed his water bottle but didn't sit back down. "I've had enough," he muttered under his breath, but loud enough for the microphones to catch it. Whoopi crossed her arms. "Then go." That single word, delivered with piercing finality, echoed louder than anything else spoken during the segment. Harry stared at her for a moment, then began walking off set. The cameras followed as Prince Harry walked away from the table, his back straight, his pace measured but unmistakably firm. Audience members whispered among themselves, some clearly shocked, others visibly cheering the confrontation. Sarah N looked stunned, while Sunny Hostin's face was a mixture of concern and disbelief. Joy Behar, caught in the middle, sighed and sipped from her mug, uncertain whether the segment could or should continue. Meanwhile, Whoopi remained seated, her expression unreadable. A producer ran toward the side of the stage, signaling to cut to a commercial break, but the damage had been done. Internet would soon explode with clips of the showdown. Prince Harry storms off. The View would trend before the day was over, and inside the studio, there was no going back. The fallout from the interview would reverberate far beyond the morning headlines. It had crossed a line few daytime shows dared to touch. As the show returned from the commercial break, Whoopi addressed the audience directly. "We had a moment there," she said calmly. "And sometimes that's what happens when you confront difficult subjects." She didn't apologize, nor did she backtrack. Instead, she defended the show's reputation for authenticity. "Ask questions that matter. We hold people accountable. Whether you're a prince or a politician, we don't play favorites." Joy shifted uncomfortably in her seat, sensing the awkwardness lingering. Sunny nodded respectfully but said nothing. Sarah cleared her throat and added, "We don't always agree on the tone, but we do agree on the value of real conversation." Whoopi gave a slight nod. The segment ended without further drama, but the echoes of Harry's walk-off remained fresh in everyone's mind. And outside the studio, the world was already choosing sides. Was Whoopi too harsh, or was Harry too sensitive? The debate had only just begun.